Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff Mom Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio.
And 안녕하세요, Anney.
I'm too scared to try it.
You don't have to. It's okay. Yeah, so welcome to another edition of Feminist Movie Friday, where we kind of abuse that term and just watch things on the televisions and call it that. That's how I'm going to explain this. Yeah. And obviously, if you've been listening, you may already know that I have dove headfirst in the world of K-dramas. That's all I've been watching. I think outside of when we watch movies for our own episodes for the Feminist Movie Fridays, it's all been K-drama. It's just been K-dramas. And what I'm talking about is Korean dramas and or sitcoms and or action shows, a lot of them. And because I am who I am, I'm trying to bring Anney into it kind of like a hostage. You're welcome.
It's been fun, you know? I think it's fair. After all the Star Wars I've made you watch, I think it's fair game.
I don't know. I mean, because we've watched the same things repeatedly for yours, but I'm giving you new episodes that are all like an hour and 15 minutes long and usually 16 to 20 episodes. So I feel like it's probably uneven at this point. I don't know. But yes, so for this feminist showing of the month, we are doing Strong Woman Bong-soon, or it's sometimes called Strong Girl. So the Korean pronunciation, and I'm trying to really get into my culture, is 힘순 여자 도봉순. 힘순 여자 도봉순. I did it. I didn't. Which originally aired in 2017 and has been held as one of the all-time favorites by many around the world. And apparently, Anney, there is a follow-up coming soon with the cameo of the original lead couple that we now love, since you watched it. So let me get a review from you. How did you feel about this show?
It was fun. So just like some background, listeners, essentially, because as we've discussed, I had my refrigerator stuff and then Samantha had her more job-related religious trauma, I need a break stuff. We were discussing about doing this, about the K-dramas, and it kind of came up a little last minute. So I did watch the entire 16 episodes in 2 days. I think. And it was very heavy loaded on the second day. But no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I didn't expect, because it has sort of a like superhero element and then it's got like a serial killer element.
Yes.
So it had a lot of things going on that I was like, oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then it was, of course, which I know we'll talk about, it had a lot of tropes that were very funny of like, you know, just the over the top gasping and the love triangle and just all of these characters that were very fun to get to know and to watch. So I had a good time. I enjoyed it. It was not what I expected, but I really liked it.
Okay. What were you expecting, out of curiosity?
Well, you had kind of just given me the title. So I was sort of thinking that it was going to be more about, I don't know, about like a woman trying to make it in the office world and is not taking any from any dudes. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, are you going like not emotional like characteristics? Nah, yeah. They were
I was
literal.
not expecting the like actual like superhero strong
literal,
part.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's even better, knowing that you're going to that. At least you watched the right one on this one.
It's true. Well, I double checked. I was like, look, I do not need another mishap. If I'm going to watch 16 episodes of something, I need to make sure that it's the right thing.
Yes. So there were several that we were talking about doing. This is one because I thought it was because it was interestingly new and people have been hailing it as a feminist look, which is kind of funny because I'm like, I don't know if it's truly feminist, but I get what they're trying to do. as well as the fact that the others were newer. And I was like, I don't know if we don't want to spoil it for those who do love K-dramas. And if you do, shout it out to me. Because like one of them was Alchemy of Souls, which I really, really liked. And then I was like, wait, it just came out last year, not too long ago. So I don't want to ruin it for everyone. But if you like it, tell me, because I love hitting it. So in this grab bag of 16 episodes / probably 18 hours worth of content, I'm just going to throw out the plot the best I can. Again, my Korean's very sloppy, so sorry in advance. I'm trying to get to my culture. It's hard. So we have the main character, Do Bong-soon, who's played by Korean star, and she is a huge star, Park Bo-young, who is a woman with superhuman strength, which is given to all the women of the Do family. The gift does have its limits. If a woman hurts someone or abuses it like her mother did, then they lose that gift. And for her, she's tried to control and hide her powers because she's trying to look fragile and weak to be loved. But that's a whole different, that's coming later. So then we also have the male lead on Min-hyuk, which is played by K-pop idol Park Hyung-sik, who was also in, if you've ever watched it, The Heirs on Netflix. It's called The Inheritors with Lee Min-ho, who is a delight. And that whole show was very problematic, but I didn't make you watch it because I was like, this is too much. And it's so cheesy. Anyway, but yes, he is the male lead here, who is a rich boy who owns a gaming company and is being threatened by an anonymous offender that we find out later. And then we always have a second lead. And this one is, the character is In Guk-do, played by the now canceled Jisoo, who is an upstanding rookie cop. And if you want to know why he's canceled, he was a bully. He's been accused of being a bully in school, as well as some sexual harassment allegations. The sexual harassment allegations were dismissed, but apparently he did admit to being a bully. So he's canceled. He literally got dropped by his agency. Oof. That's how serious they take that. Mm-hmm. But of course, Guk-do is the high school love of Bong-soon's life. But he always seems to be ignoring her and is currently dating a musician who is played by Sharina, who is in several of the K-dramas that I've been watching and the ones I suggested to you. So I'm like, oh, damn, she's big. And then she's really young. I didn't know how young she was. But she plays the character Hee-ji, who is the love interest of Guk-do, but also the love interest of Bong-soon's twin brother. So many triangles. We have so many triangles. And the brother is a doctor, so he is kind of more respected. And Bong-soon is played as if she is not very smart, kind of lazy, falls asleep in class, can't speak the English phrases like everybody knows, apparently. And that's a big downfall. I don't know. That was odd to me, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Yes, so we have several triangles, maybe a square when it comes to the love interest, all of that. But yes, we have this whole delightful back and forth between the love triangle / love squares. I don't know, like circles. Is it a circle at this point, maybe? By these delightful people. Bong-soon gets hired as a bodyguard after Min-hyuk witnesses her fighting off a whole gangster, which is another subplot, which is the comic relief when he was bullying a driver and all these kids on the bus. And she, after trying to just say, please don't do this, she has to beat him up. He witnesses this, asks her to be his bodyguard after they go to the police and they all lie about the fact that she saved everybody, the usual. She goes home all sad about Guk-do not loving her, as per usual. And then we come back and she does go to work for Min-hyuk. And she is his bodyguard. And he obviously at the very beginning is finding her very attractive, so adorable, keeps calling her cute and sexy, very inappropriate if you really think about how this boss thing is working. He even has her act as his fiance so he could fight off rumors that he is gay. That seems to be a whole thing in itself. We have Guk-do going in as a police officer and something has happened. What is it? It's the subplot. It's a subplot that no one ever actually expects and is kind of newer to these type of genres in which women are being kidnapped by a really, really, really awful, evil guy. Like, I actually had to tell you, hey, you might want to skip this. It could be triggering because it's fairly serious for such a lighthearted series.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was a definite tonal shift where you're like, oh, kind of like, cartoony sounds,
Yes.
love triangle, square happening, girl beating up gangsters, and then one of my favorite subplots is just them being in the hospital for like the entire thing and just like living in fear that she'll show up again. And then all of a sudden it's like, and then he's kidnapping women.
And trigger warning, y'all, he's beating them, and they do not hold back on the sounds at the very least. It's pretty intense. But yeah, so we have this whole subplot that there's a serial kidnapper in her neighborhood, and they kind of go on about, and Guk-doo is very involved in trying to solve this case. He's the smart kid who comes in, not taking any Although I have to say, took a long time to figure this out, even though they were right there. A long time. I guess this is how you extend the series, whatever. So we have both these plots happening. At one point, Bong-soon does get involved in the subplot because her best friend who comes to see her and hangs out with her, gets attacked by this man and is targeted by this kidnapper. She goes and saves her, but she doesn't hurt him or tie him up. She just lets him go. I have so many thoughts of like, why would you do this? Why would you do this? So he runs away in fear, but then she begins to be a target for him, as well as Guk-doo, because Guk-doo keeps coming around his little workplace and threatening him. So we have all these things. So she becomes a target. We still see her love interest on Min-hyuk coming in, trying to figure out who's blackmailing him. He's figuring it out. He's also trying to train her so she could be a superhero, and it's all this, touching, such cute K-drama touching, which is barely touching. So it's like, they touch shoulders. Yeah, all of that happening. At the same time, they are very much infantilizing her, pretending like she's a child. He sets up a desk with this ridiculous laptop and a screen in his office because he doesn't want her to leave that office. So many other things. But yes, eventually he solves that mystery. Turns out to be the brother that he liked that has always protected him. He's heartbroken, but they move past it. Now they're on to this kidnapper. At the same time, the bunch of gangsters that we talked about, who is the comic relief, keeps trying to come after Bong-soon because they are so hurt that their reputation has been tarnished. Ensues a big giant fight scene in the warehouse, hilariously done. And then we find out Guk-doo, who has never known about her strength, finds out how strong she is because she's always faked it, even faking like she couldn't open a jar of jelly.
Yeah.
Which was hilarious in itself. Again, we have several drunk scenes. If you know anything about Korean drama, you gotta have those drunk scenes. You gotta have them. I also appreciate that they always put makeup on to show their Asian flush, even though it's cuter on them than it is me, in which I turn bright red and look very bloated. And so we go on back to the kidnapping plot. He is targeting her friend again. He finally captures her. He's trying to hide it, and then soon tells Bong-soon, come get her, essentially, lays a trap for her, finds out that she can lose her strength if she does something bad and accidentally hurts a person, which I feel like it doesn't feel like if she doesn't know and she's not purposely trying to hurt someone, why would that be a thing?
Right, it's not deliberate.
Right, like, I don't get that, but okay, because she's accidentally hurt a lot of people. So anyway, again, I digress. But so she goes to rescue the friend, accidentally hurts an innocent person. Her strength is taken away, but her two men in the triangle come and rescue her. In which, the hugging scene with Min-hyuk comes through. Is like, no, come back. And you think she's dead, but she's not dead. She's just passed out. Classic. All the classics. In between all of this, yes, we find out that Guk-doo finally figures out he's in love with her and is trying to compete with Min-hyuk. Bong-soon soon finds out that she's in love with the rich boy, Min-hyuk, and she's like, oh yeah, he's going to give me a job, and he does, because what her dream is to develop her own game based on herself.
Yeah.
And so she's finally made it. He kind of keeps dangling it. Really kind of cruel. But
Mhm.
supposedly that's what she's doing. We come back. We have an event in which the kidnapper runs away. He's being chased, and you think he's dead, but no, he's not dead. He comes out from the lake, and he's alive. Yay. Not yay. Boo. Boo. I meant boo.
Samantha!
I'm sorry. Boo. And then he now targets all of them because he's like, it's all their faults that I am here and I can't get away. So he targets all of them, goes to the main company that Bong-soon and Min-hyuk own, I guess. Bong-soon doesn't own it, but she works there. Goes and then sets up this whole trap and then straps a bomb on Bong-soon, of course. Why not? And, we have that lovely scene between Min-hyuk and her all crying about, don't leave, go away. He's like, I'll never leave you. I'm going to stay here with you, yada, yada, yada. Because she wants to save him. She gets her strength back, throws the dynamite in the air, push.
Fireworks.
Oh, yeah. No, it becomes to fireworks. Somehow that dynamite becomes fireworks.
It becomes
Korean
fireworks.
dramas. We love it. They embrace. They come together. They spend the night. He's like, I want you to love me. She's like, I love you. I see you. All these cute little things. I will say, Park Hyung-sik, he does the best cutesy smile when he's like in love with her. He really is very convincing about how much he adores her. It is very cute. They're very young, but they are very cute. They're not young to you. They're young to me. So we go on, and again, the villain runs away somehow and escapes and is trying to leave the country, and everybody comes together to find this dude. They set up this whole trap. He's bought a sniper gun to kill Bong-soon, all these things. They set up a whole trap, and then they catch him, and they entrap him in a wooden prison type of thing. I'm like, I feel like that would be easily movable. It's just plywood. I'm very confused. This dude, like, okay, but whatever. So he gets caught, and when they ask him why he did it, he's like, it's fun. Have you ever had a woman beg? All these things. Really gross. Really, really gross. We see that Bong-soon has actually rescued all of the women who have been imprisoned and have been kidnapped, including her best friend, as we said. And they all, I guess she still keeps her secret because no one believes the women who are like, this woman rescued us, whatever, whatnot. And many of them are all traumatized. So that's realistic. I'll give them that. That's realistic. And as we continue, we see everything going happily ever after, except for the fact that Guk-doo does not get love. He gets very sad. He does cry because he can't give a necklace he wanted. We also see Min-hyuk like put trackers on her, which I thought was odd as well, but you know what? Whatever. Yeah. He proposes. They get married. The whole wedding scene is quite funny. There's comic relief throughout. There's the whole staff. There's the twins. Of course, the mother and the father. And I didn't even talk about the fact that the mother and father are a complete train wreck, but they're a complete train wreck. And then she goes on to work at the company, realizing that's not what she wants to do after she develops her own game, and that her duty is to save people. So she goes back to being an intern, I guess, just to hang out with her now husband. I don't know. So that's what happens. And then they end up having 2 kids, twins, who are all girls, and they end up accidentally beating up everyone because they are super strong. The end.
Yes. Which I don't know that you specified, but she is a twin. Her brother.
Yes, that's right.
Also, I just want to add in another subplot, because there are a lot of subplots.
Yeah, there's so many subplots.
Is that, like, she threatened the kids.
Oh, yeah, the kids.
She threatened these kids who were, like, I don't know, being jerks.
Bullying, yeah.
And then she was like, go pick up trash. And so they kind of become like a trash brigade. And like her biggest fans.
Yes, they are her fans. They have a whole site dedicated to her.
Yes.
Which is quite funny. And she calls them my kids.
Yes.
But she looks younger than all of them.
Yes, she am.
That's my favorite.
Especially like the leader guy. I don't know. Some of them look pretty young, but that guy, and maybe he is younger, but to me, he looked a bit older.
She is in her 30s now, I think. So like, then she was approaching late 20s, early 30s. I'm telling you what, when it comes to Korean stars, you can never tell. I am always thoroughly confused by what ages they are. and truly believe they are like 20 when they're actually 30. The US is like that too, but not as many actors are like that. There's a few. But here in Korean dramas, I'm like, wow, you're playing like you're 25, but you're actually 32, but you look 18. I'm so confused by this.
Right.
But that's all of it. They even called the teenage kids call her old. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I would never.
No. But that was a thing. And then there was like that construction company that was like mostly in the hospital, a lot of it. They had like a rival
They had all
group.
gangsters. Yeah, they were all gangsters. With this one dude who is a pretty big, from him and the henchman who always like losing his teeth and that ended up being one of the workers at the software company or a gaming company. They're two big comedians apparently in the South Korean acting world, and like this is their forte. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. But that was the entirety of their makeup, is to be the clowns, I guess, of the show. But yeah, we have to go through the K-drama list so that I think almost every K-drama I have watched has included the cute tiny woman. And most of the leads that I've seen for like comedies and romantic comedies like these are cute. They are not gorgeously beautiful. They're the cute ones, which I found interesting. Lots of food, including tteokbokki, which is very delicious, and I was craving it the entire time. A handsome chobol, or the rich dude and the poor girl, every time. Every damn time. The overeager, annoying mother, that's always a trope. It makes me really kind of sad. They have a scene with bumper cars. I've seen that in so many of them. I'm like, wow, what is this? This is fascinating.
Okay.
I don't know. The aggressive pull is in every... I think it's gotten less and less and less, but the whole like yanking the woman by the arms is constant.
Okay.
It's constant. Like, I'm like, wow. The idols, as we talked about, the main character here, leading man was a K-pop idol. We always at least have one that I have found out. The usage of English as a way to establish a higher class education, which is interesting because that's kind of that, like the verbiage, the phrases, they really look down on people who can't speak this. And I've seen this in K-pop world too. I was like, wow, that's really interesting. Lots of bullies. We have all the bullies. Again, the abusive, and then like specifically abusive bosses. And if anybody is actually from South Korea, can you tell me, can supervisors kick their employees? Because I have seen this a lot.
Yeah.
In the K-dramas. I am confused. I'm like, if that happened in our workplace, that person would be fired and sued.
Yes. They definitely brought that up a lot of like I will slap you, I will kick you. I was like, whoa.
It's constant. It's not just, I'm like, wow, what? And the mothers really like to smack people. That's the whole thing. I think they've done well in like making sure that the men never slap women. Like that's not a thing, but the aggressive pull is bad enough to me that I'm like, what is happening? Again, a lot of soju drinking, drunk scenes. That's the constant. And the fighting and, all the words. The backwards hug, that's a whole thing in dramas. That's supposed to be really romantic, apparently. And every time you see them doing it, the women always look shocked and dismayed. I'm like, wow. What is that? Apparently, it's really intimate.
Okay.
Really intimate, just so you know. And then, of course, product placement. Product placement everywhere. We talked about how John Oliver talked about Subway, and that was all in Goblin or The Guardian that you and I watched because I love, but it was the entire thing. For this one, they had like high-end things, like the chocolate place.
Yeah.
Was one of them. The types of purses that were bought was one of them. It was interesting. I was like, okay. And then the cars were Volvos.
Right.
Yeah.
It's higher end.
The Goblin had Maseratis as their vehicles. Yeah. I was like, what is that? I didn't even know. I couldn't recognize it. That's how little I know about cars and how, I guess, high-end cars, fancy cars are. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. But yeah, and this is the Volvos. All of them are Volvos. So yeah, those are the constant. I'm sure there's more that I have missed. The awkward kisses. where they just, like, the women always look shocked and turned around. I'm like, oh my goodness. Ooh. Yes. But yeah, so we wanted to talk about some of the themes because they did flip a lot in this series. They wanted to flip it on purpose. Many talk about the fact that they felt like this was more feminist and they were pushing it forward, talking about issues like the Me Too movement. There was a point in which a man was groping a woman at the subway, which has been a complaint that has happened within South Korean culture, and her breaking his fingers, essentially, and walking away. That is a conversation. Like, they made sure that they addressed it, and they talked about the fact that the Take Back the Night was brought up as well, and how that was a big feminist movement, which was the point of the subplot, to talk about kind of the Me Too, sexual harassment, abuse towards women in that culture. And I thought that was interesting because with that, they made sure that a woman could protect her own, which was kind of that conversation.
Right. And they have that whole scene too where this guy is essentially bullying a woman, but they had like a minor car accident. And Bong-soon gets out of the car and is like, and he kind of ignores her. And then the rich guy gets out and he's like, and the guy's like, okay, listens to him. And she brings that up. Like, she chases him down. She gets in the back of the car, makes him get off the road. And it was like, so you'll listen when a guy says something and tells you, and then you're all polite. But when women are telling you something, then you feel very comfortable, like being very rude and being cruel and all of these things. So they definitely addressed stuff like that.
Yeah, and they did. I think they also, like, the back and forth with this is that whole fragile girl bit, infantilizing her a lot, as the boss would do when it came to her job, her work. He was definitely patronizing because he kept saying she was cute. The protecting from her friend, same thing. And then pretending like she was fragile because she didn't feel like she could attract him. Because he made that statement and he said, I always saw you. He was like, I would have been fine out, knowing who you are, like knowing the real you. But to me, you were fragile. I was saying that to describe you because I wanted you, type of thing. And I'm like, that's so sad. Like, there's so many things wrong with that moment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I don't think at all this is unique to the show. Like, we see that all over the place, but it is very like that idea that the man is the protector and that's what makes him romantic. And also, like, if he's not the protector, then he feels effeminate or emasculate, emasculine. So I think that has seeped into a lot of our pop culture, and like a lot of us have internalized those things. Like, I have found myself writing things like that, even though I don't believe in them. Like, I don't think it should be that way, but it is something we just see everywhere.
Right. And yeah, I mean, it had the good, it was two extremes, which was interesting. And I could get that as an actual thing for women who feel like they're being told they're overbearing, they're too loud, they're all too aggressive. You try to hide and shrink yourself because you think that's the way it is, and that's what she has done. And then she finally came to the point of being like, nope, that's not who I am. This is who I am. Of course, we have the love symmetries. There's so many things like happening here, like the brother and the ex-girlfriend, and then they break up, which was smart. Like, y'all can't have this relationship, but it did make me sad. Like, brother was finally happy, but whatever. And then we have the wedding, and then the fact that Gupdu still loves her and shows up for the wedding, and they still hate each other. That's kind of funny in itself. And we kind of had a love triangle with the parents too.
Oh, we did. Yeah. It was Guptu's mom, right?
Mother, yes. Because she wrote a really cheesy book and he loved it. And the mother was very jealous. But she also really insulted him about, like, look what happened to me when I lost mine. I had to marry him. Do you want this? And I'm like, oh, God. And he loves his daughter. That's the whole thing. Yes. And then the conversation of superheroes, which is what she wanted to be, but couldn't figure out how to be. And then finally, by the end, she accepted herself and became that superhero, which Min Hyuk, the boss, had always seen her that way because of the opening credit scene, which I did not talk about, in which he is going to see his mother's grave. The bus blows a tire, goes out of all kinds of ways, and then comes to a point where it looks like it's going to go over the edge after hitting a mother and daughter, and she's able to stop it. he doesn't ever get to see her face, but he knows he saw her, and then painted a portrait of her, and then it turned out to be her.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is quite a wild opening scene, I must say, because that bus is just swerving all over the place.
Everywhere. All the kids, all the ping pong balls. The ping pong balls.
Ping pong balls, yeah.
So many ping pong balls. Yeah, and then of course, again, we've already been talking about the problematic things that's happening in this, because I can't ignore when it comes to Korean culture how problematic things can be. They're trying to fix it, they're trying to address it, but it's really hard to bypass the fat phobic thing, the whole like she has to be skinny and that no one wants you if you're not skinny and tiny and all these things. That's a running thing throughout all of Korean culture. I think there's a couple of shows that try to address that and kind of like embrace it, but they do it in a really bad way. I just saw a preview of one, and it looks like she is an average woman, so she's not super skinny, but obviously thought of as chunky or fat. And the way he's wooing her is feeding her more food, and I'm like, that's just as bad.
Right.
As trying to make her diet. Like this is weird. But like that seems to be a whole obviously conversation. It was very slight, but the mother always talking to other women about how fat they are or no one wants you. Really problematic. There's a lot. I think they are trying not to be homophobic, but a lot of the ways that they approach this, like in the queer central of things in this show, it came off as homophobic. Am I reading into that?
No, I don't think so. But I will say it was funny for me because I've had to kind of come to terms with this in, like as I've gone through my finding out how I identify and stuff and like really being like, okay, I'm queer, is that I didn't get like the whole joke. I don't think it was a joke, but I was kind of like, wait, are they serious or not? Because they kept saying the rich guy was gay, like he's into men.
Yeah.
And I was like, but is he? And then I was like, is this like a... Because there's a scene where it implies that like him and Goop do almost kiss.
Yeah.
And I was like,
I think
wait.
they did kiss. I don't know if they... Oh, she stopped them from kissing as they were super drunk. Yeah.
And then I was like, whoa, is this? And then it wasn't that, which is fine. But I was kind of like, wait, what's going on? And then it definitely had at the end a very abusive like development leader at the place that was like leaning hard.
Yeah. I mean, there was a moment in which like the friend, the secretary, he like is trying to tell everyone I'm not gay. And then the development dude is like, why are you so ashamed? Calm down. Don't react this way. So it's kind of calling it out, but in an awful manner with the stereotypical way of doing things. Again, yeah, and I will say like the way when the main character, Min Hyuk, when he talks about being accused of being gay, he never gets offended. He's never had a moment where he's upset by that. Like it's not something that he thinks is a big deal.
Yeah, he's kind of like, maybe.
Yeah. Like it's essentially like, I don't care.
And like there's a scene where, because the mom is really like wanting her daughter to get with the CEO.
Essentially like, trying to give her to the CEO.
Yes, like consummation blanket and everything. And there's a scene where they have a conversation about like, no, he's gay. And the mom is kind of like,
everyone has flaws. She says every man has flaws. Look at your dad.
She says, but she doesn't like, which is not the best response. Yeah. Please understand. I know that's not the best response, but it wasn't like super like, well, then kill him. Oh, like it was at least kind of like, well,
like everybody. But it was also a funny, and this could be the translation. So this is the part, like I really do hope that I can lean into being able to understand Korean, truly understand Korean, which I read a sad research paper saying that adopted people truly forget. So it's just like they never knew it. I'm like, oh.
Oh, that is sad.
But I spoke it till I was 8. I'm very sad about this. But anyway, back to because the translation may be part of this problem. I will say for the specific show and Vicky Rakuten, I don't know if they have individual translators, like Netflix I think has theirs and all this. They do a lot better than most by at least explaining the jokes when you don't understand. Like they will tell you what it is. And I've never seen that on Netflix. Netflix will just change it all together and make it a whole different thing. Like I know the vast difference. I'm like, that is definitely not what they said. Like I know that much. But yeah, but with that said, I know at one point they are talking about the brother tells Bong-soon that he's not gay. From a clinical point of view, he's not gay. And I'm like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense. Like, it's kind of one of those moments. I'm like, I'm not sure what they're talking, how they're leaning into this. Other than, just my opinion, but I don't think I don't know. There's so many things that are like, okay, it's not as bad as I've seen, but it's not great.
You're right. Right.
And it's still a problem. There's still a long way to go. And then another one that I finally, huge issue is the abuse turned comedy. Now, of course, we find out, because she's just beating on the dad, and at one point it looks like she has beat him. Like he has black eyes. Right. All of these things. And it turned out that he literally did fall. And then she was like, I would never do that. How could you think of me that way? And then everybody's like, because you constantly berate him and it's not surprising. But the fact that people had let it go the entire time until the very end when he left and finally had enough. And I'm like, why is this a comic relief? This is not comedy. I am so confused, even to the point that she would constantly slap Bong-soon, constantly hit her, and when she lost her power, she's like, this really hurts. And even when it didn't, it hurt me. Like, having to explain. I'm glad that she did finally address it, but that's a common theme around all the comedies, and I'm very like, wow, this seems to be an okay thing, that they constantly beat their kids, they constantly beat their children. Again, that one we're talking about, The Heirs, which was older, like 2014, I think. They're constantly slapping their kids, making them bleed, and just leaving it as is, and no one seems to blink an eye. That I'm like, is this culturally like a thing that I know different cultures? We talked about this even in our recent episode on motherhood and children and types of parenting culturally, but it's shocking that it is still supervised like this at this day and age, because this was 2017. The recent ones in 2022 to 2023 still have that same thing too. Yeah.
And I think that is played for laughs is pretty concerning. And there were certainly a lot of things where I'm like, again, not unique to this at all, but like the kind of like playing for laughs of that and abuses of power, like the power dynamics throughout.
Again, like he's really leaning into like, if you like me, then I'll give you this job. It feels like.
Yes, and I don't think we ever specified, but he had her essentially move into his apartment. She was sleeping in his place with the lights always on, which I found interesting.
That's a constant thing. Again, they all leave the lights on.
Well,
all of them. It drives me crazy. It's the same thing as when their cars, they're always driving with their lights on.
Oh.
I know it has everything to do with filming, but it's always on. It does.
I mean, that's what I assumed, but it was just kind of, for me, who's like, I literally are like put blankets over like my internet router. This is
then
what
you turn the lights off so you can see the stars.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenes where they're off, but a lot of them they're on. But just kind of that like played for laughs of like, oh, he's kind of making her do all this stuff. And she was great. Like, she was a great actor, and it was funny to see her get so riled up and yell at him. But essentially, it's still like...
constantly making her cook and constantly eating when he eats, making sure she carries all of this stuff. There was a lot to it. Of course, like, again, this is a show, this is for laughs, all these things. But yeah, you kind of look at like, is this for real though? Someone tell me, because I don't feel like this is for real. Is it common for supervisors to physically hit their employees? Because I don't feel like that should be a thing.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either.
But yes, overall, this was one of the ones that I really do like. Again, I've talked about how sometimes when you find allegations against an actor, it ruins it. Korean culture, don't get me wrong, the sexual harassment stuff is not cool. And I would never. Bullying is bad enough, all these things. But the Korean culture they are a lot stricter about who is what. And he got dropped by his agency pretty quickly, which is kind of like a death stamp for many actors.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty unheard of here.
Yeah. And again, so the couple is coming back for the new series. Apparently the one who is like the long lost cousin of Bong-soon gets her strength and is trying to find her family. That's that plot. And then we see a cameo of them.
Is that because I saw that there was going to be one on the CW? Is that what they're talking about?
Oh, no. They are doing a remake with Ronda Rousey. Yeah, that's a remake of it.
Okay.
And it sounds like it's a lot more serious than... I don't know if they could pull off what the Korean show was able to pull off. I don't think they are going to be able to.
It was certainly like I said, it was a lot of like, oh, here's kind of our like comedy part. Here's our serial killer part. Here's our action part, which you can pull off and is, like, it's not like other things don't do that, but I think it was sort of more shocking than a lot of shows that mainstream America might be.
Right. I don't know if they can translate that into... So there's so many shows, of course, like both ways, where American shows will go into a Korean cultural interpretation and then vice versa. I'm surprised that it would be Ronda Rousey. I don't think she's very relevant at this point. I don't know if this was outdated. I don't know if they're going to actually do it.
Well,
be interesting.
I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see.
Boom, boom.
Yes. Well, I had a great time.
Thank you
Samantha.
for indulging me.
Oh, it was fun. Thank you. Keep up your suggestions. And listeners, yes, we love getting suggestions like this, thoughts about it. So much appreciated.
Yes.
So please send those to us. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. You can also find us on YouTube, and we have a book coming out. You can pre-order it at stuffyoushouldreadbooks.com. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you all.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.